You must be very proud, Mr. Hill.
Of course I am. I killed Fitty Man.
I beat them all to death.
I'm buying you and your friends hookers.
Well, you know me, I'm larger than life. Yeah, I killed Fitty Man.
Dad, no.
Kill, Topsy, kill! I killed Fitty Man.
I'm an old man. Everybody already hates me. But Bobby, he's just a child. He's got his whole life ahead of him.
I have a lot of love in my heart for stone-cold bastards.
Well, I suppose you're...
Sucker punch!
I'm Vegeta's #1 simp, president of the Griffith Did Nothing Wrong Club, and yes, I think Cotton deserved better. They're all just, being a little silly, don't worry about it. As original patriarch of the Hill clan, Cotton was such a little weirdo. Emphasis on the little. He took the thoughtless, gruff old dad stereotype and waddled off into uncharted territories with it. For 12 seasons of King of the Hill, Cotton terrorized our cast of lovable redneck babies. 12 years of pure abuse.
My boy's a pump jockey. Works for tips.
By all accounts, one might imagine it was satisfying to see this psychotic little freak finally die and be gone from the lives of the Hill family.
Normal.
Except, it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't satisfying at all. The opposite, in fact. Cotton was so much more to the show than a mere menace. And yet, when his time came, the show dispatched him with less grace and effort than it afforded to Buckley. Buckley! Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying Cotton was a good guy. I'm not that much of a contrarian. Yet. But I do argue that he was a great character, an incredibly important piece of the King of the Hill Frito pie, and so his departure needed to be an important plot beat. So join me as we take a little dive into Cotton's character, looking at what made him special, and why I think his death was fumbled so badly by the end. There would be no Hank Hill without his pa, not just from a biological point of view.
Yeah, we was using 4 layers of protection and my men still got through.
But the effect he had on his son's character can't be overstated. This is reflected in the show's narrative. Cotton was a stumpy staple of King of the Hill for a long time. He was established as soon as the pilot episode, making regular flashback appearances until turning up in the flabby flesh and shins of the father.
He's Japanese.
No, he ain't. He's Laotian. Ain't you, Mr. Khan?
The fact that he appears so often, from such an early point in the show, means that not only does he become cemented in the viewers' minds, but it also serves to convey his importance in the lives of the characters. For such a small dude, his presence looms forever large in the back of Hank's mind. On the surface, yes, we are forced to acknowledge how the heavy weight of having an abusive father can crush Hank at times.
Good God, you've got a fat neck, Hank.
A lot of, if not most, of Hank's character flaws the show has him confront can usually be traced back to Cotton's treatment of him. Cause?
Pull the trigger! Make some noise! You're never gonna be a war hero like me if you shoot like that. You want your binky back? You gotta come in firing!
And effect. So sure, he's horrible, abusive, and abrasive. But if that's all he was, I wouldn't be making this video. I'd be making one on, I don't know, which Total Drama Island character would turn into the bounciest ball. Cotton is not just the bad guy of the episode all the time. That'd be too simplistic an assessment of his role. No, for as awful as he is, there is a kind of fucked up argument to be made that he makes Hank a better person. Bear with me. By being an anti-role model, Cotton's antics often drive Hank to act nobly. Take 9 Pretty Darn Angry Men. In a series of uncomfortable scenes, Cotton spends the episode ragging on Hank's mother Tilly.
Of course, bad as Tilly was in the kitchen, she was even worse in the bedroom. I forgot how much old ladies stink.
It's not cartoony or silly, it's just plain mean. Seeing Hank meekly sit by and let it happen is so awkward because it's so realistic.
I notice I'm not saying anything. Still not saying anything? Nothing coming?
It's bad enough when Hank can't stand up for himself to his dad, but the repressed son being unable to defend his own mother is a sad but not unthinkable or uncommon situation. In typical confrontation-averse Hank fashion, he sort of brushes this off until, eventually, defending the virtue of his mower sets him off.
I've got a good mower, and I have got a good mother.
Hank is the conservative, southern, stiff upper lip given human form.
Every time you have a feeling, just stick it into a little pit inside your stomach and never let it out.
While this is both a generational and a cultural thing, I'd also argue that Cotton is a major source of just how comically emotionally walled off Hank is. How could you not be emotionally stony with a father who undercuts your self-esteem on the daily? It's practically a survival instinct to protect yourself. Cotton's approach to fathering is less tough love as it is a coordinated military operation of love. Cotton wants Hank to be great, but no one could ever live up to the man Cotton sees himself as.
You're never gonna be a war hero like me if you shoot like that.
Anyone and everyone would come up short. Even Cotton himself. And this isn't the participation trophy generation. When you fail, this little boomer thinks it's important to let you know so you do better.
Ain't you gonna eat your waffle, Hank's wife? It's right in front of you.
He centers himself in every event in your life,
Hank, you fitty man.
compelling you to clam up and give him all the space and time to share his stories and incessant thoughts in order to bond with him at all. Not that that worked well for Hank, mind you.
I don't think I know anything about my dad.
By the time we meet these two characters, Cotton is so over Hank.
Hank, I gutted a man. He whined less than you.
40-ish years of disappointment means getting even the smallest acknowledgement is like pulling teeth. This leaves a lasting emotional scar on Hank, and as we talked about earlier, it's something that he has to work hard on throughout the show. This, of course, bleeds over into Hank's relationship with his own son, Bobby. He wants to be a better father than his father was, but that ghost of Cotton seeps in. It's the focus of the pilot, with Bobby verbalizing that while Hank isn't outright abusing him, the absence of open affection is making him feel like a disappointment. Hank then manages to express, with obvious difficulty, the love for his son that Cotton won't even express on his deathbed to him.
Okay. I love you no matter what you do there. Phew! I've been disappointed by just about everything else in this town, but you? Not once. Damn it, you're my boy.
His last ever chance casually tossed down the drain. His ego runs over him so roughshod.
You loves me?
Dad?
What kind of man tells another man he loves him? I don't want to die with my sissy son who loves me.
But again, even Pilot Hank, the initial position of all the characters in the show before any development arcs, even Pilot Hank demonstrates that he's learned from this. Bobby and Hank episodes often resolve with Hank and Bobby and Hank, understanding each other a little better, and Hank providing reassurance, even tolerating the odd hug. And on paper, Hank has more in common with Cotton than with Bobby, whose interests are modern and confusing and a bit too sensitive for his liking.
Why do you have to hate what you don't understand?
I don't hate you, Bobby.
Hank and his dad share similar interests in stereotypical Texan things, you know the sort, Hank even being a confident high school sports star. Yet it's Bobby, a kid he has so much less in common with on paper, with whom both Cotton and Hank have the healthier relationship. By all accounts, despite the differences between Hank and Bobby being so much more vast, Hank has learned from his experiences as Cotton's son, and has done a better job of bonding.
I got my shins blown off by a Japan man's machine gun. So don't come crying to me with your problem.
This is the best day ever. You're the best dad ever. I'm the best son ever. Can we do it again next year?
Even Cotton himself recognizes the difference in their parenting.
Hell, if it's a contest on who's the better daddy, You win.
Cotton is, by contrast, completely unable to cope with feeling uncomfortable, even for a minute, totally unequipped to meet people where they are. Either you literally sink to his level, express what you need to in the same brash, combative way he does, or you don't say anything at all. Hank spends the entire show getting out of his comfort zone, even if not always enthusiastic about it.
8 topless bars and no cotton. Of course, you'd be a lot more help if you'd open your eyes, Hank.
And this difference between them makes me wonder if awareness of Cotton's effect on his life isn't a driving force behind Hank's relative adventurousness. Hank is rigid. He's the tightest clenched butt, narrow urethra having guy in Arlen.
We can transition you to boxer shorts. Or, if that's unacceptable, I can prescribe a specific series of sexual techniques.
A series? Are you suggesting I break the law?
But he's leagues more flexible than Cotton was ever able to be. A lot of shows try to deal with the topic of how do you deal with a parent with whom you have a troubled relationship. It's a deceptively tight line to walk. I've seen shows be too eager to push the message that you should cut out family members ASAP, coming across as overly selfish as a result. I've also seen shows push eternal patience, coming across as needlessly subservient. In the final Shinsult, you could argue the show leans to the latter more than towards the former, but not to the detriment of the show or its characters, I don't think. It's convenient for Hank to abandon this nasty little burden in a care home.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Just keep him here forever?
Well, that's up to you.
But not only is it still his dad, Hank sees that the convenient thing to do isn't the right thing to do.
Don't forget about your old man. You'll come back to me, right, boy?
Oh, Peggy, come on, that was awful. My father hates it in there.
At least by the family-oriented values the show often praises. Hank also learns to be a bit more sensitive towards Cotton with regards to his age. Whether he deserves that or not is up to the viewer, but for Hank, it's more about being the kind of man his dad wasn't. Not because it looks cool or makes you seem like a big man, but because it's right. Simple as.
I'm worth more dead than alive.
For better and for worse, Cotton was important to the Hills. That alone should have warranted a significant send-off, narratively. But he was also important to me, and you. He was a well-realised character, and it's impossible to say he doesn't make an impression.
Smells like pancakes. I'll have waffles.
One of the things that makes him so compelling to me was his overt rejection of old age. Listen, getting old sucks.
Julian!
You stop looking forward to kid stuff like Nick or Treat and start dreading that knee surgery that's always tomorrow.
Nick doesn't care where it is.
Nick or treat!
Nick doesn't care how old it is.
Nick or treat.
Nick doesn't care what size it is. Just make sure you answer it.
Nick or treat!
It's kind of admirable to forever live like you were still 25 and still have your shins.
I'll show you what a 75-year-old shinless man can remove.
Cotton gets himself a hot young wife instead of sticking with one his own age.
I didn't trade your mama in. A trade-in has some value. I scrapped her.
Continues going on adventures and, by all accounts, remains extremely physically active for a man of his age and, condition. One of my other half's favourite Simpsons episodes is Raging Abe Simpson and his grumbling grandson in The Curse of the Flying Hellfish, where Grandpa Simpson gets to relive his youth for one day in an homage to classic pulp war stories. That episode is how Cotton lives every single day of his life. See Yankee Hanky, for instance, where Cotton kind of loses it. Well, more so than usual. He resolves to kill Castro the way he wanted to on the day Hank was born. Most old men regret that one touchdown they didn't score. Cotton's mad because he never got to piss on Castro's body. Based. And yeah, he's got the gang back together for one last job. Except...
If I don't watch my weight, they're gonna cut off my foot. Christ, I'm hungry.
Oh. Cotton may have been living life in a time warp, but his squad hasn't been.
Take your hands off me, you gutter slut.
Daddy.
Daddy!
Looking at them is a reality check, a deep gaze into the mirror, and he doesn't like what he sees. It visibly bums him out, and why wouldn't it? These are his peers. And look Look at them!
And it's puzzle day at the rec center.
Still, it'll take more than a little thing like reality to stop Cotton, and he sticks with his plan. It's only at that point of accidentally almost drowning Hank that he comes to his senses and learns to accept his age. I'm joking, of course. He still plans to go to Cuba, but begrudgingly has to accept paddling there isn't a viable strategy. The episode is all about identity. While Cotton has been dealing with his issues over his age and lost peak, Hank has been dealing with the fact that he spawned in New York, and thus is not a native Texan.
Yep.
Yep. Or should I say, yada yada yada. Hank, should I?
Once again learning what not to do from Cotton, whose obsessive rejection of his age almost killed his son, Hank learns to just let it go.
They were born across America, but they died Texas heroes.
He wasn't born in Texas, but he's obviously still a Texan.
Texas.
The final Shinsault is predominantly about this too. Cotton doesn't want to accept his diminished independence and even boasts about having memorized the eye exam. When little baby Hank's eyes got weak, he put on a pair of eye diapers. Oh, can baby see now? Bobby's grandchuddy instead puts everyone on the road at risk like a real man.
Yeah, man, it's like that dang old dead hit the dirt, man.
But the cat's out of the bag now. Not only is he having to deal with his son trying to make his decisions for him, but it's his pathetic weakling son, Bad Hank. And the world around him seems to affirm that this is the way things are going to be now.
Now I'm letting your son take care of you. You have to promise to be a good boy.
Everyone is closing in and telling him he can't function like an independent adult anymore. And this is even echoed in the way Dee Dee is attracted to him.
They've got you in a baby gown. Oh, look at the baby. Oh.
Someone should look into Dee Dee.
Hello? Oh, look at you. Aren't you the cutest little helpless thing? What? I'm only 9 years old. Oh, you're like a little baby in that gown. No, Dee Dee, I don't want to be in a Turkey Tom video. Oh, Gucci.
Cotton as an old man is constantly fighting being seen as an invalid, a relic, someone in their second childhood who needs coddling. He has two catchphrases. He gives life,
You ain't my daddy, I'm your daddy.
And he takes it away.
I killed 50 men.
Cotton's final war is against being seen as a dependent. It's a war of attrition, one he can never win. That's not just a source of conflict slotted in for an episode or two either. We see that the ravages of age and how the world treats him upsets him, again and again. He was a legitimate war hero, perhaps a lot, bloodthirsty, but a lesser show would have had him be a draft dodger or a stolen valor stealer. Some of his accomplishments are legit.
I have chosen to highlight only a few of Cotton Hill's many acts of bravery at Guam, the Solomon Islands, Sardinia, and Okinawa.
Dang it, woman, you forgot Munich.
You were never in Munich.
I wasn't? No.
Why did you go to Munich? We don't do that in Germany.
And his bravery was commendable. It's what makes his legacy complex, and the constant grinding of time hits him as hard as the PTSD he got in the war. All that's to say, Cotton has some notable depth as a character, especially for a sitcom side character. His more bullish character traits,
My arms are tired.
And I was tired too when I was ordered to retake Munda Airfield in the Solomon Islands.
are a logical potential consequence of his circumstances meeting a strong personality. Not defensible, sure, but logical enough. To cope with the war trauma that clearly still affects him, maybe he's had to be this coarse, prideful person, because that's what gets him through. He joined the army young, so you can see how he'd learned to meet adversity with hard skin and a gun, and then it was affirmed and reaffirmed by the outside world that doing so makes you a hero. Now he can't accept that being rough around the edges isn't enough to win the battles at home.
There's nobody left. And I still ain't done nothing to help my family.
Speaking of a rough, tough personality, a sign of a well-written meanie is often that you enjoy seeing them suffer. We talked about heels last time I covered King of the Hill, but despite sometimes deserving his punishments, and being well-written, Cotton is somehow a bit different, and wouldn't fall under the category of a heel. When Johnny Bravo gets his just desserts, it's funny because he's a big clown asking for it. While we enjoy and cheer on Hank when he tells Cotton off, we don't laugh.
But this isn't about my mom, and it's certainly not about my mower. It's about a bitter old man who blames everybody but himself for all his own problems.
Let me show you how to scratch it. Either way, destiny still arrives.
Cotton isn't a clown. He isn't some cartoon character. Well, he is, but you know what I mean. He has funny lines, but as a person, he's this unpleasant little goblin.
Go ahead, then I can do you.
At times, it can be so pitiful seeing him struggle that the whole scene is deliberately awkward to sit through. It's a younger, bigger man telling off an old, disabled man to the point that he shrinks into his chair a bit. Sure, he deserves it, he earned it, but...
Dear Lord, what a sad little life.
Cotton is a well-written bad man, and as goofy as he is, he's still not comic relief the way Dale is. Part of the root of this complexity when assessing his character is also that Cotton has good qualities. Yes, I know, he does have some.
And I can't deny him anything in the world. No, I can't.
While you don't need to be a good character to deserve a good send-off from a narrative, having redeeming qualities certainly doesn't hurt, and Cotton definitely had some. For one, he's based.
Your daddy's generation's giving away everything we fought for. You people give back Gandhi's diapers that you had them.
Okay, but seriously, he does have a lot of other good qualities that don't necessarily outweigh his bad ones, but are in plentiful enough supply to be notable, and definitely in plentiful enough supply to fact-check our little brainlet Peggy.
Well, hatred was just about all there was to Cotton.
Boo! You stink!
Shut up, Peggy. Get paralyzed, idiot. For as much as his son Hank and his ex make him seethe and cope, Cotton also, almost bizarrely, demonstrates an immense amount of love for Bobby and good Hank.
Those videos are a GH. They mean something to me. Edie, get the camera. He's doing it again.
The whole plot of When Cotton Comes Marching Home hinges upon him struggling to do what he can to create a life for good Hank and Dee Dee. He puts up with degradation hitherto unheard of for the character. He takes a menial job getting abused by a bratty manager.
When people come in, you give them the special greeting. Did you learn the special greeting?
I studied on it.
Good for you.
He fights a homeless man to sell cans.
This hobo took 3 cans from my pile. I got those cans from a sewer outside the bus station.
He's even prepared to skip the Veterans Day parade just to keep food on the table for his family.
I told you, we'll bring your meal into you.
Doing it for the baby. Doing it for the baby.
For a man who is the cardinal sin of pride given life, this is a big deal. You could definitely argue that he lets this go on too long. Peggy frames it all as pure selfishness.
Selfish, selfish, selfish. He is making his wife and your little brother stay in that tiny room.
No. He's got a point.
Though I'd say the fact that he appears in Hank's life around this point suggests he was already flirting with the unthinkable at the start of this episode, asking for help. Asking bad Hank, no less. The episode is an exercise in pushing Cotton to his limits to make him lose face. The problem being that Cotton's limits far exceed most normal people's.
There was nothing to eat except rats, so that's what I ate.
Ultimately, though, he does decide to ask, just in his own way, to keep grasping that last tiny scrap of his dignity.
Hank, I thought it over. I've decided to let you give me some money. You know, for GH.
And although he uses GH as an excuse, I think he's being truthful. After all, Cotton's pretty content to get by with no shins, a tent, and jungle rice for dinner when it's just his well-being on the line. But GH is his baby, and a baby needs his papa. I don't think this is a redeeming episode. Peggy is right, a better father would have acted sooner, let his family suffer less. Hell, a better man probably wouldn't have fathered a child he has no hopes of supporting.
I didn't plan for this. You think I planned for this?
But it allows the layers under his hard exterior to show. His grandson is also his baby, and Cotton loves Bobby to bits.
He said if the baby turned out as good as you, Bobby, then he will not abandon it.
It might seem odd at first. If Bobby has little in common with Hank, he has literally nothing in common with Cotton. All of Cotton's criticisms of Hank being soft and weak seemingly could be redirected to Bobby with ease. And that would be true, if Bobby wasn't weak to the point of circling around to being invulnerable.
I was merciless. I dropped down on him like a steam trunk full of concrete. I guess he was just born a pile of mush.
Well, I guess you could say that, but maybe mush isn't all bad. You can keep stomping on it, but it's all give. It just stays mush.
One might even be tempted to think, initially, that this is just another way to torture Hank, give his grandson the love his son never got. But one only has to watch the show to see his feelings for Bobby are genuine.
Here you go. I've written you a letter recommendation for the Army. Give this to the General when you turn 15.
A deservedly well-cited example of Cotton's love for Bobby is in Revenge of the Lutefisk, in which he takes the hit for Bobby's escalating crimes. He doesn't hesitate or think as expected for Cotton, he just takes action.
I'm an old man. Everybody already hates me. But Bobby, he's just a child. He's got his whole life ahead of him.
Given that we learn just how deep Cotton's pride is in When Cotton Comes Marching Home, among other episodes, it really highlights his love for Bobby to hear Cotton confess to a whole town about how he shits himself because he's old.
I'm old. I got no shins. My plumbing don't work so good no more. I blame the fire on someone else because I was embarrassed by my own terrible smell.
Uh-oh. Stinky.
It visibly pains him to lose this much face,
No.
especially in a way that highlights his age, a sore spot in his ego. Worse still, it's not even true. Cotton's pride made him hesitate about asking for help for his family, but here he is, in front of literally everyone he's likely to ever come across in Arlen, talking about his smelly diapers.
Uh-oh. Stinky.
Here we can see his psychology. Cotton cannot accept help or care from others when he benefits in any way, even if others, like Dee Dee and Good Hank, are affected. But he'll take a reputation bullet for Bobby without a second thought.
If I can take a bullet for my grandson, I'll do it. But not in the face. That's how I make my livings.
He's able to overcome these crippling personality issues when done so through the lens of helping his family. While he doesn't love Peggy the way he loves Good Hank and Bobby, in a lot of ways he may even flat out hate her.
Why won't you die?
This was supposed to happen to you. You're worthless.
But he does demonstrate a lot of compassion towards her, and dare I say, a degree of respect. Now I know what you're thinking. Cotton shitting on Peggy relentlessly makes up some of his more memorable quips.
Mr. Reaper, I'd prefer it if you put your hood back on.
But that's Cotton. Underneath that all seems to be this nugget of acknowledgement for the only woman who ever stands up to him.
Are you down on me? Go ahead, because you don't deserve to live, you worthless...
Cotton's plot is a great episode to point to as an instance of Cotton displaying not niceness, but goodness. Something that's a lot harder to commit to. Anyone can be nice. To give a bit of background for Cotton's plot, one day Peggy fell out of a plane.
Hi!
Oops, Peggy's down in the dumps. She's been paralysed. She's crestfallen about her newfound lack of independence, and the prospect of physio isn't exactly enthralling either.
Well, what do you know? It doesn't smell in here at all.
It starts to dawn on the ever-cocky Peggy that freedom from her cast doesn't mean she's free now. I actually watched this, and binged the rest of King of the Hill, whilst my leg was atrophying and puffing up like a balloon last year, after an apparently unnecessary 2 months in a splint. Thanks, NHS. So this was mega relatable. It took me about a week of hard work to be able to stand for long enough to brush my teeth.
Stop moping.
I am not moping. I am having trouble supporting my head.
Ah, Peg. Me too. Cotton sees this, and in the privacy of his own company, seems to feel genuine pity for her. It's a rare moment for the character at this point, before they start kind of hitting you over the head with it later on in Season 6's finale.
I came here to apologize to Michiko, but discovered I wronged two people.
Of course, there's the element of one disabled person seeing another deal with their own disability. It's not taken seriously too often, but the dude did lose his shins. That would be traumatic for anyone. But I think what really hits home for him was Peggy struggling against the overbearing weight of being obsolete and dependent. I think if she just sat there and let it happen, he wouldn't think twice. But that fight against physical adversity is what pulls him in, being a never-ending war he deals with both as an old man and as a disabled person. Cotton then goes on one of his classic Cotton rants.
Reach for it! Come on! You wouldn't last a day in a Japanese POW camp. I killed Fitty Man. I killed Fitty Man. I killed Fitty Man.
On the surface anyway, that seems like all it is. Just old Cotton rambling on about himself during someone else's time of need. We all have that one friend who, in response to hearing an issue you're dealing with, ruminates about their own, much worse issues.
I got my shin blown off by a Japan man's machine gun. So don't come crying to me with your problems.
And that's what the little montage in Season 13 would have you believe too.
I killed Fitty Man.
But as it progresses, we see he's talking more for Peggy's benefit here than his own. He's expressing, in his stereotypical brash old man way, that no matter what hand you're dealt, you can push through. A message Peggy really needs to hear at this point.
Oh, who am I kidding? That rubber band kicked my ass.
And as the episode goes on, we see how their styles of self-motivation really match one another. They're both stubborn, spite-fueled people.
You sadistic son of a...
What are you on your knees for, woman? Praying ain't gonna help. If God loved you, he'd have opened your sissy chute.
You shut up, you... Oh yeah!
When Peggy learned Nancy was cheating on Dale, she was furious. Not because Dale was done wrong, not because Nancy was a dirty whore. She is.
I have my reasons.
Yes, and I've seen those reasons packed into his Sergio Valente jeans.
But because of the suggestion that not to notice speaks poorly of her own intelligence. Knowing this or not, Cotton draws on this side of her. He motivates her the way he gets motivated, with anger. And boy, does it work.
Peggy Hill is doing things I could never have done on her own.
Not unlike when my kneecap shot up into my thigh, Peggy gets up there. He saw Peggy's need and met it perfectly. But naturally, and exactly as he predicted, it made her hate him.
You ready to hate me more than you ever hated anyone in your life?
I already do.
Then we're halfway there.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone on the writing team had also been through physio before. And as someone who's gone through it, you can't recover with hugs and tea breaks. Cotton's not doing this to Peggy because he doesn't get how hard it is. He's doing this to her because he absolutely does.
Good effort. Have some chow.
It takes a lot of tough love to push through months or years of physio and reclaim your body's autonomy. This is a great Cotton episode, as well as a great Peggy story. I always thought it was a shame this experience never affected their relationship long term. But this was in the latter half of the show where serialization of King of the Hill was getting suppressed by the network. A big shame. Cotton's a straight shooter, literally. There's not much to enjoy about having a hard ass for a father, but them telling you like it is can be a benefit. Particularly at the end of Next of Shin, where he gives Hank some well-needed advice. Next of Shin is the episode where we learn that Dee Dee is pregnant, and it comes directly after Pregnant Pause, where we learn of Hank's narrow urethra problem. To say this was a bit of a blow to Hank's ego is an understatement. Just when he learns his pee-pee don't work, he finds out his papa's pee-pee performs perfectly peachy and got his partner pregnant.
I ain't got a narrow urethra. He gets that from his mother. Mine's so damn wide I could pass the child myself if I had to.
Once again, Hank can't live up to Daddy's shadow. Yet this mogging is purely physical. Sure, sperm coming out of Cotton's wide urethra is like throwing a pot of porridge down a corridor. But when the weight of raising a second child hits, he pussies out. and flees to Vegas, to no one's surprise, really. Hank tracks him down and they sit together, a father and son both feeling like less than men. But for all his selfishness, Cotton again sees his reflection and offers solid advice.
But what if I keep trying and it doesn't happen?
Well, then you had the fun of trying, boy. I gots to have that talk with you.
He's blunt and his tactics are abrasive, but he sometimes knows when someone needs to hear it like it is. As Cotton would be quick to remind us, we can't forget that he was an intensely principled soldier as well as a tough one. The concept of even the wild and untamable Cotton having a sense of justice is particularly prevalent in Season 6's returning Japanese, even if I don't like it as much as these earlier Cotton episodes we've already discussed. In general, with King of the Hill, it feels like this is the point at which the show begins to become less grounded than before, and gets slightly too silly at times. Case in point, Peggy's tiny newspaper gig funds a family trip to Japan, where Cotton reunites with an old flame, with whom he has a son.
Whoa!
It's all suddenly very 80s sitcom-y, an issue that grows as we progress through the seasons. But it is still a canon pair of episodes, and although we learn that Cotton is, unsurprisingly, a dirty little slut...
How many women have you slept with? 5? 6?
273.
You slept with her, didn't you?
A lot.
We also learn that he feels a sense of shame over at least one life he impacted with his spreading it all around town.
I don't want that poor widow to think I came over here just to become a Japanese TV star.
He also gets endearingly self-conscious.
Does his bow tie make me look like a puppet?
Dyeing his hair to appear more youthful to Michiko as opposed to an embarrassingly doddery old man like his peers are, and he gets quite distressed to the point of losing control over his PTSD when faced with the idea that his noble quest might be misconstrued as a sleazy ploy for positive attention. It's a well-trodden path already, but with a wacky new coat of paint. Oh yeah, and I'd be remiss not to mention that this episode was made as an homage to the bizarrely huge Japanese fan base the show has. You should look up the viewers arguing about the localization butchering the show's plots to make them more Japanese.
We're not so different, you and I.
Anyway, Cotton manages to learn from this experience in Japan, trying to make sure Bobby doesn't make the same mistake he did, in a cute little scene at the end of the special.
Bobby, you got to say your goodbyes, because Lord knows it's a grenade and a keister to come back for him after 50 years.
It's a rare example of Cotton wearing an emotion other than anger on his sleeve. Well, for a little while. See? Cotton wasn't all rotten. I'm sorry. We're finally here. We did it, gang. The whole point of me highlighting what an important, multifaceted, and funny character Cotton was...
And show some leg. They ain't got much tone, but gams is gams.
...was to highlight that he didn't get the exit he deserved and, honestly, required. Shockingly so, in my opinion. I don't mean logically. He was an old man in terrible, terrible condition.
Doesn't look good.
What's wrong with him?
What, are you serious?
It makes sense that he'd die. And to get a bit more meta, it also makes sense for a slice of life show like King of the Hill to have a plot where an elderly, unwell family member dies, especially one who had gone from several appearances a season to just 1 or 2. I guess they felt they'd milked that tit dry by season 12, and they were probably right. Still, major character death. For any show, this opens a whole sea of writing opportunities, something made extra interesting by how wild a character Cotton was.
Thank you very much, Hank, for helping me chop him up!
But despite having the ingredients for a really compelling arc about dealing with this complex character's death, it kind of avoids all of them. I was promised a taste sensation and you served me a boiled potato. It all felt very rushed. It was all basically over and done with in an episode and a half, if that. The season 13 episode where Hank carries out Cotton's last wishes arguably relegates the small matter of Cotton's legacy to the B-plot, in favour of a dude-vorce between Dale and Bill, something that also encroaches awkwardly on the very final goodbye for Cotton.
Those guys meant a lot to Cotton, just like you guys mean a lot to me. You know, I guess I did learn something about Cotton this week.
learned something today.
Sure, he
I learned
killed
something
50
today.
men, but he didn't do it alone. There were all kinds of stinkies and fatties.
Is he seriously giving a speech right now? Is he seriously giving a speech right now?
This has gone beyond a fight and has officially become a dude-vorce.
Dude-vorce. Good grief. It sounds less like a King of the Hill plot and more like a stupid meme they'd make up for How I Met Your Mother. Ugh. In dealing with his death, the writers also greatly oversimplified Cotton as a character to the point that it damaged how much sense some of the plots made. Let's address the big ol' elephant in the room. They kill off Cotton in an episode where his wife and baby son go completely unmentioned.
Nobody loves me and I don't love nobody.
No, that's not true. People do love you.
Really? Who are they?
Good Hank for one, I'd think. Your wife?
Oh, sweet Lord!
It's hard to do the whole Reddit nihilism, we're born alone, we'll die alone, when the past 10 years were spent developing his loving family. The fact there isn't even a throwaway line about phoning Dee Dee and maybe not getting through to her or something is mind-boggling. There's not much going on here by design. Cotton's on his deathbed, several times in fact, and Hank has to deal with it. He's in denial for about 2 minutes.
He's not dying. He's dying.
Kinda gets over that stage unceremoniously. The real conflict being that Hank knows what his dad's like, learned from his first death.
You loves me?
Dad?
What kind of man tells another man he loves him? I don't want to die with my sissy son who loves me.
And he wants to find a way to tell his dad he loves him without saying it explicitly. Less reckoning with an important character leaving the show, more wacky sitcom setup.
I will find out who did this to you and kill them with my own hands. This, I swear to you.
Huh.
So many characters central to Cotton are left out of this. There's Dee Dee, Bobby, Michiko, kind of, his friends at the Veterans Club, and of course, Good Hank.
And I can't deny him anything in the world. No, I can't.
All people who could be perfect tools for Hank to use to express himself without getting too close and cuddly.
Really? Who are they?
Your son, I tell you what. Not me. Good Hank loves you. He cares about you, even if he doesn't really know you. He just knows that you're his dad. You showed him how to be a hill.
But no.
Well, hatred was just about all there was to Cotton.
But we've already talked about how that isn't the case at all. In fact, let's go back to Bobby. I'd say there's multiple episodes worth of content in such a sensitive lad dealing with the death of his granddad, especially from the perspective of his relationship with Hank. We don't get that. We don't get one episode. We don't even get a B-plot. Instead, they keep it a secret.
I don't think he should be around for this.
Hey, Bobby, you're going to come stay with us for a while.
Why?
And Bobby faffs around with Luann in the episode's unrelated B-plot. We have to assume he learns off-screen about Cotton's death because his response to Cotton dying is never ever shown. I watched the remainder of the show waiting for the other shoe to drop. Crap, we've got to tell Bobby! But nah, nothing. Bobby mentions Cotton dying in season 13's Serves Me Right for giving General George S. Patton the bathroom key, so he must know, but we don't see him react. You could have even done something about Bobby kind of causing Cotton's death. He did ask him to go to that teppanyaki restaurant.
We'll see who can't drive their grandson at night without glasses or a license using a mop to press the pedals. Let's go!
What a disservice to a pretty important relationship. The other great sin of how Cotton's death is treated is that it's really underwhelming. You get a sense of, oh, that was it. I don't know anyone who sees his death scene and doesn't assume this was another fake-out. The palpable confusion when it fades to Hank finishing his memorial shed is always there. Cotton willfully dying just to spite Peggy angrily wishing he'd live, and suffer for many more years to come, is a funny bit. Hank choosing to believe Peggy's lies about Cotton's last words is also pretty interesting, and in character. It's just very, very thin by itself. It needed more. The season 13 episode with the really long title I'm not going to say again, but in the time it took me to say this would have finished saying by now. The season 13 episode, sending Cotton off for good, ends with Dale fulfilling his promise to Cotton to
destroy Sissy Shack Hank's building.
I swear on the lives of my family I will try my best to see what I can do about some of those things. So long, sissy shock.
It's meant to be a heartwarming little ending, but instead, I find myself thinking, what the hell was that? I've been vaccinated slower. This would have been a great ending to an arc spanning several episodes. Hell, season 13 could have been the Cotton's death season, with the impact of his passing running throughout many episodes. A whole season where Hank is grappling with his father's death feels really apt to me. In the end, have him come to peace with it after a long journey, because it is a long journey, and it's one we all have to take one day. Then, boom, blow up the shed. That gives us time as the audience to forget Dale's promise, and be as surprised by it as Hank is. That's the ideal for me, but I would have accepted 1 or 2 episodes where it was just done, well, not shite. I don't want to go all AO3 on ya, but the death of Cotton raises so many interesting angles that could have been jumped on in any of the remaining episodes. Yet, they capitalize on none of them. So I thought, what could have been done? What does this story look like in some Berenstain universe where the writers cared more? The jealousy angle. Maybe Hank spends an episode feeling ashamed of his jealousy over Bobby's closeness to Cotton. In season 13, the family gets together and Hank tries pooling collective knowledge about the kind of person Cotton was.
That's your 7th question about Cotton's tools. I think you should try a new area.
Maybe at this point, Bobby pipes up with knowledge about Cotton that even Hank didn't know, having been very close to Cotton and someone Cotton talked to pretty openly.
I sat next to that man in a sweat lodge wearing nothing but a towel, boxer shorts, and a bathing suit. And then he goes and spills his guts to Bobby?
It's often the case that you see a very different side to your grandparents than your parents did. And when you weren't close to your dad but wish you were, wouldn't that play on your mind just a bit? There's someone right under your nose, getting all the attention and openness from your dad that you were so starved for, you ended up with a narrow urethra just from the tension of being so bottled up, shooting it out like a power wash hose. BoJack Horseman is about as subtle as a horse kick to the head, but it had a whole arc and a devoted episode, all about how BoJack wasn't mourning the absence of his horrible mother, so much as he was mourning the loss of the chance to have a good relationship with her.
You know what it's like? It's like that show Becker, you know, with Ted Danson. I watched the entire run of that show, hoping that it would get better, and it never did. And when it got canceled, I was really bummed out. Not because I liked the show, but because I knew it could be so much better, and now it never would be. And that's what losing a parent is like.
That's the ultimate gut punch of death. It's a full stop. Along with the person, the infinite what-ifs, and maybe some days, die with them. I feel this really applies to Cotton, and I think King of the Hill could have done this really well. They just didn't. The legacy angle. It can be hard for children of abusive parents to deal with the dichotomy in how you knew someone behind closed doors versus how the rest of the world knew them from outside the family. Despite being a well-known asshole, Cotton was a local hero. Even Hank's closest friends, the ones most tuned in to how Cotton treats his son, still fell over themselves to impress him.
You hear that, Hank? Daddy's staying with me.
And let me tell you, these kinds of issues only grow post-death. Maybe Hank is bothered with a new wave of adulation for a dad who had only ever tortured him. You can have Arlen erect a bench for the guy, as is common, which bothers him. Maybe he would try to get people to acknowledge the real Cotton. You could have an outburst during the unveiling. Oh, or Peggy could write a scathing expose of him in her tiny column and get shit for it. The message could be then to realise that letting go is better, that trying to ruin his reputation posthumously wouldn't fix anything, and it's just letting the harm he did drive you to act in hate, allowing him to still control you. In essence, risking becoming someone like Cotton, but instead choosing to break the cycle by being the bigger person. Classic Hank behaviour. The Bobby angle. We touched on the Bobby in the room before, but it really should have been addressed in the show. Like, really. We could have had an episode immediately or soon after Cotton's death where, after making such a fuss in episode about not telling Bobby that his beloved grandfather is dying,
Bobby, there's a crazy man killing all the children in your neighborhood. So until they catch him, you'd be in grave danger here.
they figure out how to break it to him. Hank then has to navigate Bobby's much more openly emotional reaction to losing his grandfather, whilst also grieving his father. Bobby loved Cotton, and vice versa. You'd expect him to be affected. It's really weird that not only does Hank spend very little time mourning a parent who looms so large in his life, but the adored and adoring grandson spends none. Not a single bat of the eye. Surely Bobby saying something by way of a reaction is a bare minimum, no? The those left behind angle. Dee Dee and Hank go completely unmentioned when Cotton kicks the bucket. A year later, in that divorce episode, we see that Dee Dee has already moved on to some unseen guy.
I'm sorry, Hank, but I had to clear Cotton out of my mind so I could make room for my new husband.
It's presented as a joke, but the intention is clearly more, don't worry about her and GH, they'll be fine, stop thinking about them. An unfortunate side implication is also put forward that Dee Dee never actually cared for Cotton, as she's moved on to a sugar daddy ASAP as possible. To me, that's odd. She was shown to be ditzy, sure, but I never got the sense that she didn't actually love Cotton. There are a lot of questions raised now Cotton is gone. What remaining relationship does Hank have with his stepmom and half-brother? What responsibility does he have to make sure they're okay? It seems like from Cotton dying in the hospital to the divorce, Hank hasn't been in contact with her at all. That doesn't seem like him. A single mum with no job, a dead husband that's established to have no savings to leave her, and a baby brother out there on their own? And you're telling me Hank doesn't care? I don't buy it. Maybe he begrudgingly allows Dee Dee to move in with him, in a move that echoes him taking in Luann. There's some interesting fun to be explored there. If we're married to the idea of Dee Dee moving on quickly, why not show us that happening? Show us Hank questioning what her real feelings for Cotton were. I'm sure Bobby would love having a baby uncle around and be bummed when they inevitably leave. Maybe Peggy is finally happy to have a new baby in the house and tries to take over the motherly responsibilities from Dee Dee. That could be a doorway to putting a cap on that season 3 second child arc that just fizzled out.
Well, you never put a thermometer in my...
There's just so much to use here. But sure, Dale becomes a basket weaver. Great. The funeral angle. And speaking of bare minimums, what about a funeral episode? That could be a great way to force the emotionally stunted Hank to open up a little. What is a funeral for, if not to get your emotional socks paired up and rolled into a drawer? I talked before about how fading to the shed evokes a palpable sense of confusion in most first-time watchers. I think the same thing happens when they tune into the next episode and it's business as usual. No aftermath. Hank becomes co-owner of an organic market. Your dad just died! We learn in season 13 that Cotton's been cremated, but even Hank doesn't seem to have been aware of this.
Good Lord, Peggy. My dad wants me to flush him.
And yeah, sure, he didn't have a great relationship with his dad, but there was a weird depth to it nonetheless.
Thanks for coming, Hank. You're a good son.
Instead, they just used Dee Dee's quirkiness as a way to breeze on past the fact they never bothered dealing with this rather significant event.
One more thing. Bye-bye, bitch.
In conclusion, the main issue I have isn't that the send-off wasn't sappy and saccharine. You'd have been watching a whole different video moaning about if he'd passed on in a sea of pathos and tears as Peggy had wanted. It just wouldn't have suited Cotton. But so many interesting things could have been done with the send-off for Cotton, and they just weren't. And it's not just that they failed to seize any of the opportunities, it's that they dramatically swerved left and right to purposefully avoid all of them. It's also worth saying that Cotton doesn't need redeeming in the slightest. He was awful.
I made my point. If you need me, I'll be in the one part of this church that's still men's only.
He makes you glad your dad isn't Cotton, but he was an interesting, vital character. It made me glad to see him on screen whenever he deigned to crash land in Hank's life.
Somebody make me some toast. Don't care who, do care sourdough.
It's a shame that Cotton didn't get the goodbye he deserved. His treatment right at the end was kind of emblematic of the decline in the show as a whole, but even if his ending was botched, we should all pretend to be Hank in the non-existent episode where he deals with the loss and remembers the good times. I'm glad that we got so much good Cotton content whilst he was around. Goodbye, you shinless bastard. If you're still with me, thank you so much for sticking around. If you want my recommendations for what the best Cotton episodes to check out are, I'd say... An Officer and a Gentle Boy, The Final Shin Salt, Next of Shin, Revenge of the Lutefisk, Cotton's Plot, and When Cotton Comes Marching Home. Have a look at the rest of my channel for silly little video essays on Western animation, old and new. See you next time. Bye-bye!